Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing experiences, true paranormal stories on the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And there's many ways to support the show if you decide to. You can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there, and that can be you can get that for $1 a month, and of course there are higher tiers of membership there, but all the tiers get the same benefits, all the shows, and you can also check out the merchandise store and find all kinds of amazing shirts and other items there with designs on them made by friends of the show. Also, coming in October, there will be some special designs for Halloween and the 5-year anniversary of the show, which really is amazing to think about that at this point. Uh, Also, support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. Please also check out links to friends of the show in every episode description. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel, but also is the co-host of the show on Saturdays of the show, whenever possible. And Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows from several other people and myself as well, 24/7. So we're back to these true stories here. And thank you all for listening. So let me get back to the file and make sure I can read this whole thing. This is a little bit of a long one. This one says, I was 9 or 10 at the time, living in a different house. Up until I was 7, my family and I joked that my grandfather, who passed when I was 3, became a ghost and haunted our house, which I'm not sure is related, but maybe. In case it's relevant, the urn that held his ashes stayed in the master bedroom. My brother and I, same age as I, were in the back of our house in the master bedroom. We've always been scared of going too far back into our house due to previous paranormal encounters, but managed to get past it soon before this. This one specific time, we were playing this game where one of us would turn off the light and the other, who started at the opposite side of the room, would run only when the lights were out, then stop when they came on. We played a few rounds with no issue. At the end of a round, we were standing at the light switch, laughing, engaged in some sort of childish banter. I don't remember what about. We suddenly heard the loud sound of a classic Jack in the Box and froze. We just stood there, looking at each other for a few seconds before we processed it. We both ran as quickly as we could back to our lounge and immediately went to talk to our grandmother about it. She stayed in the master bedroom at the time. When we went back to check, the music had stopped. Months later, we were packing up, to sell the house and move. There wasn't a Jack in the Box anywhere in the house, and there was nothing else in that room that could have caused the music. I thought a few times that maybe I was hearing things, but my brother and I froze at the same time without saying anything. It might sound a bit cliche, but maybe it was my grandfather trying to play with us. He had been dead for around 7 years at that point and had played with us a lot when we were toddlers. I think maybe that was his way of trying to interact with us, or maybe just some other basic haunting thoughts, and that's how it ends. That is an odd one. I do wonder about the idea that the writer had there about the grandfather maybe trying to interact with the kids. And I also wonder, and this is something that we'll never know, probably, are there objects in the on that other level of reality where, let's say, spirits can be that is still somewhat close to this one? Did the grandfather have a jack in the box? And somehow all that came through to the grandchildren, to the writer and their brother, was the sound of a jack in the box because there was some kind of a jack in the box object on the other side. And it wasn't meant to frighten the grandchildren, but obviously they didn't know what was going on, and so it did frighten them. Um, I also wonder. Now it does seem like in that post there they said that there were other things that happened in the house before this event. So I'm wondering how far back do those other paranormal experiences go? Do they go back to a time before the grandfather passed? Because if they do, then it could be unrelated. But it's really hard to say without a lot more details, and even then, it'd be impossible to know for sure. But I do wonder about that. Was there some kind of a situation where the grandfather was not trying to frighten the kids, but it just didn't go well? And I've come across similar stories where people have these frightening experiences, but then say it felt like maybe someone that was close to them was trying to reach them and interact with them in a positive way. But because of just the way it manifested, because of whatever was going on, it had the opposite effect. I wonder how often that happens, uh, where it's not, in every case, it's not just that in every single case out there where there's paranormal activity, it's always meant to frighten people. In some cases, it's just, it doesn't go well. People get the wrong idea from it because they don't see or hear all the details of what is actually causing the experience. Anyway, just some thoughts on that. This next one is really short, so we'll see where it goes. Uh, let's see here. So this one says, I'm guessing they mean about their home. The light bulbs would go out. All you had to do is screw them back in. It would happen randomly and went on for about 2 years. They would be barely screwed in, just enough to not fall out. It started after we got a couch and kitchen supplies from my great aunt after she passed. We tried screwing them in as tight as possible, the light bulbs, without breaking them. And that's where that one ends. Uh, I do wonder about, I don't know, some kind of residual energy. Um, of course, when it comes to objects, now, it may not have been directly connected with the aunt herself. It could be, it could be that it was, although that seems like a not a very nice thing to do to people. Um, so I wonder if there was some kind of energy, some kind of consciousness attached to the objects before the writer here and their family got them. Uh, I don't know, but that seems possible as well. So it's hard to say with these these experiences, as always. Let's see. Move on to the next one here. This one says, "This happened last month, and I still can't get it out of my head. I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced something like this, but I need to share it. I live near an old railway line that's been out of use for years. There's an abandoned stone tunnel that cuts through the hill. When we were teenagers, we used to mess around there for fun, but now it's just covered in graffiti and trash. I never really felt scared of it until that night. I decided to take the shortcut home through the tunnel. I turned on my phone flashlight and started walking. My footsteps echoed all around me, which was normal. About 30 meters in, I heard something else. Breathing. It wasn't an echo. It was slow, steady breathing that didn't match mine. I froze. The tunnel went dead silent except for my heartbeat hammering in my ears. After a few seconds, I heard it again, closer this time, like someone inhaling slowly right behind me. I spun around with the light, but saw nothing. The tunnel was empty. The strange thing was, the sound didn't seem to come from a single place. It felt like the whole air around me was breathing. I started walking faster, almost running. I was nearly at the exit when I heard something that still makes my skin crawl. A voice, low and right next to my ear, whispering something I couldn't understand. It wasn't an echo. It wasn't in my head. It was real, right there. I bolted out of the tunnel and didn't look back. Since that night, I've been taking the longer route home, just to avoid it. That's where that one ends, and I don't blame the writer there for doing that. I do wonder if how that sound was able to seem like it was everywhere. Was it because of the nature of it being a tunnel? That seems odd, though, unless the breathing was incredibly loud, but they don't say that that's how it was. Uh, I also wonder in situations like that where they can't trace the source of the sound or it's all around they or anyone else who has a similar experience where you can't trace the source of a sound and it just is just all around you. Is that sort of the spirit or the consciousness of a place itself trying to make contact, uh, or a consciousness that has just become so attached to a place that it's spread out in the place, and so it seems like it's everywhere. But then at the very end there, it was right next to the person. So there's all kinds of questions with that one, as usual. Uh, and I know that whole experience sounds frightening, but again, the person, the writer there, wasn't physically hurt or attacked or scratched or anything like that. So I wonder what was the purpose of the contact? Was it to frighten them, or was it not? And again, it was just sort of a side effect of what was happening there. Not to say that everything that happens is good or misunderstood. There's definitely negative experiences people have out there. I've had a couple myself. But I think it's maybe it's not always so easy to figure out if an encounter is meant to be threatening or not. So, moving on to the next one here. This is another short one, so that's good sometimes. This one says, in 2009, I was over at my sister's house making nachos. That sounds amazing. And the pan with the nachos just randomly started hovering in the air. I immediately looked at my sister and yelled, "Look." She turned around and saw the pan in the air. Then it just slammed down on the table. I still think of that till this day, and never believed in ghosts until that happened. And that's where that one ends. This to me is fascinating because it sounds like, so the writer there didn't say, my sister's house is haunted. There's been all these things that happened before this and all these things after. They just point out this one experience. So was there just someone passing through that, as funny as it may sound, I don't mean this to be um, meant as a joke, even though it is funny. Was there someone that was just in the area and passing through and either wanted to get the attention of the people there or not, and they were just trying to get to the food? If you think about that, what is it like when you are just energy and consciousness and you can't have food the same way you did before? Of course, there are stories and experiences people have claimed to have had where food does appear to vanish. Food and or drink do appear to vanish. So, is there a way where sometimes that those items can be processed? I don't even know how that would work, obviously, but just a thought there. Let's see here. All right. So we'll try to get these next two here. This one says, when I was roughly around the age of 9 to 11 years old, I can remember vividly the ghost experience. I was at home because I was ill with tonsillitis. Now, I messed up the beginning there, but anyway. Uh, I suffered with it bad when I was young. I stayed home from school and was with my mom most of the day, playing video games and being next to her, so I could feel better. My dad was at work, and my brother, who is 2 years younger than me, was at school and was finishing soon. So my mom, uh, as she always does, drove to the bus stop to wait for him. I was left home alone. I was quite happy because I could turn the TV volume a lot louder as to not bother my mom. My two cats were in the living room, sleeping. I just started another match of a video game, and I started to hear thumping. I turned the TV down to mute and paused my game. The thumping and banging was getting louder, and I could hear it was in my room upstairs. I have a really thin floor, so you could hear everything. Then I heard chains and grunting. I watched a lot of ghost stuff with my mom, and I thought that this could be explained, but before I could even think of an explanation, the thumping, which I believe was footsteps, was walking down the stairs with the chain sounds and a deep male grunting. Each step that was being taken was a grunt, and a chain sound would happen. I heard it get to the bottom of the stairs and stop. My cats, who were sleeping, were fully awake and staring at the door that enters to the living room. No hissing. I lost my spot. No hissing or growling, just ears perked and staring. I was too scared, so I went underneath the blanket that was on the sofa and I just waited for my mom to come home. I've heard the chains since then, at my grandmother's place. Just a brief rattling, as if to taunt and entice me to come upstairs and see. Since then, I have firmly believed in ghosts. I'm just wondering if I'd ever hear those chains again. That one is wild because chains, people hearing chains, that is a thing you hear about, at least I've always heard about, more in fiction than in people's actual experiences. That's the first time I've ever found an account like that where it talked about someone hearing the sound of chains um, associated with that. Unless it's in a case where a place had a history of terrible things happening where people were actually in chains. So I don't know, but but yeah, let's see here. We will try this one here, see if I can get through it. We have like 3 minutes left. This one says, we had this mirror leaning against the wall. It was in a rectangular wooden frame and was supposed to be hung on the wall, but we lost the mounts for it. So I just leaned it against the wall, and it was fine. But one night, while I was about to sleep, the mirror suddenly fell forward. It didn't slide out from underneath. The mirror came off the wall, then slammed face down. I didn't hear anything at all except the loud crash of the mirror. And then my dog just raised her head and stared in silence. She showed zero signs of fear, worry, or anything. She just stared at it. Some have suggested that because the mirror was right behind my door, it may have slowly been pushed up higher against the wall. So I repeatedly opened my door with different amounts of force. Several times just normally opening it, other times pushing the door a little harder, then a few times where I pushed the door really hard. I only ever managed to simply tap the mirror with the door when I pushed really hard. Someone suggested that maybe it was an AC wind current. There is a vent above the mirror, but my AC doesn't come gushing out or anything. I've had other things happen too. Like I had a bow in my closet. I'm guessing they mean a bow and arrow bow. I'm not sure. In the same spot for 4 years straight. It suddenly rolled off the top shelf of my closet. The spot where I left it was fairly stable. I never really reached for anything up there, but it could still have been. Could still have a logical explanation. There we go. But the mirror going from leaning to falling flat on its face, I don't know about that. And that's where that one ends. Uh, Mirrors are weird. That should be a new phrase for the show. Um, and yeah, they're apparently, some people say they're portals. They have energy. They can take in or give out energy. So I don't know, but it seems possible there could be something to that, especially since they tried to figure that out and see if it could happen accidentally. That's all the time we have for this show. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.